So, governance, risk, and compliance deals with how do you manage your risk and compliance concerns. Just like you have to worry about your physical, your money, your physical assets, you have to be concerned about your digital assets. Healthcare, then you have to worry about the customer's privacy.
So compliance is making sure that you keep following these regulations over time.
You follow the rules.
An AI agent is really good at reading 100 pages of specs.
So what kind of information, customer information, is considered sensitive customer information?
Okay, so I have to admit, when I started preparing for this episode, I was feeling a little anxious. That's because the topic for today is super technical. Today you're going to learn all about cybersecurity, certification, and compliance. My problem is that I really don't know much about all of that. My credentials are in full stack software engineering, aka I'm the one who creates security problems in the first place, and I count on other people much smarter than me to solve them. My dear colleague Saad Ali here is one of those smart people. Saad, you work as a site reliability engineer with me at Arbisoft and will be co-hosts for this show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, never better.
Cool. And our guest with us today is Jaime Contreras. Jaime, you are a GRC consultant. And there's going to be a lot of acronyms in this episode. So we're going to work hard to explain all of them.
Right. Governance, risk, and compliance.
Thank you. You got the gist. And you are currently working for a fairly large medical group in San Antonio, Texas.
Yes.
Again, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
So governance, risk, and compliance deals with how do you manage your risk and compliance concerns, right? Governance is going to be like the board, the policies and procedures, putting things in place to try to account for your risk and compliance concerns.
So you need to unpack this for us. Governance for me is which people decide what. Is that the case here?
Sure. I mean, the policies and procedures have to come from management. From policy would be executive level, and then the actual procedures would be more at the operational level.
So, what kind of risks are you dealing with?
Cyber risk would be my focus, right? IT. I'm part of the IT department. So I don't worry about, I guess, hard for me to think of non-cyber risk because we're in such a digital world, So I was talking to someone.
Cyber is not just software, right?
No, yeah. I was explaining to someone the other day that was a plumber, and I was telling him how just like you have to worry about your physical, your money, your physical assets, you have to be concerned about your digital assets, Yeah, and then in the case of like a healthcare, then you have to worry about the customer's privacy. That's one of the highest concerns. So you're trying to make sure that because everything's gone electronic, right? That it's kept safe. That you do your best to keep it safe.
So that is risk. Basically, anything related to cyber being a very wide term related to software, hardware, basically anything electronics, which is a lot of stuff in a healthcare company. So, and what does compliance mean? Because it's a very specific term in this context, I believe.
Compliance in the case of healthcare, primary focus would be HIPAA. It's a regulations, federal regulations on protection of customer data. patient data in the case of healthcare.
So compliance is making sure that you keep following these regulations over time.
You follow the rules, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a super naive and practical question. This is the question that my parents ask me about every 6 months. So my parents are not software engineers, and they ask me, but what do you do in your day job? Like when you go to work, what do you do? So let me ask you the same question.
Okay. Well, we had to establish a program that would then help with taking care of that, right? So one of the things that I do is I review reports that come from our tool that we use to monitor all the logs, and I then make sure that gets fed over to the IT team, so that way they know, they can see if there's anything of concern. One of the reports that I do is for like data loss. So it lets me know that what are the accounts that had the most transfers of data. Because then, hey, if there's a lot of data going out, then you have to be worried, oh, is this a legitimate, there might be reasons for that, but then why are these people, or this even more concerning if it's like an account, just some kind of service account, some kind of anonymous account. So you're trying to catch where people that might be interested in causing damage or doing anything nefarious. That's what you're checking on. And so it's kind of boring. It's like, it's not the exciting, pen test, fun stuff that some people do.
Is it boring though?
Not for me. I enjoy it.
Okay.
Part of what I do too is like every year I have to review the policies and procedures to make sure that they're up to date, right? That everything that we're still keeping, because the regulations change. The goalpost changes like a lot, so you're always making sure that you've updated our policies and procedures, and so then I'll do check that and
wait. Before we move on to policy changes, I want to
Sure.
talk about that first part that you discussed, that you mentioned, monitoring logs. Is that automated? What kind of applications? Can you give us a sense of what kind of applications ship logs, and in which format? What is the infrastructure that you have in place to analyze those logs?
So you have a tool that's SIEM. So it's basically a centralized tool that gathers all the different log data. It brings it all into one place, and then that tool a lot of times has the ability for you to create a report. Some tools are easier to use than others.
Okay. Can you give examples of which tools work best?
One that's very popular is Splunk.
Yeah.
A lot of people use that tool.
It's a SaaS service, though.
Yes. And so then, the idea is to figure out how to create some kind of reports that'll give you information that on a regular basis you can look at. So I have reports that are daily reports. I have weekly reports. I have monthly reports. And the frequency of the report too would be the concern level, right? You don't want if somebody is doing anything bad, you don't want them having a whole month of before you catch it, right? And the month, think too that means when the report's generated, I then have to look over that report. So it could be a month and a week, right? Because by the time I get through reviewing the monthly report, so you don't want to have you want to have the lower risk things on a monthly basis, and then of course something that maybe you just have to do once a year. So there's quarterly also you could set up as a frequency. So you're making sure that you're looking at key accounts as well. Privileged accounts are a high concern. So making sure that nothing's. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So the accounts you're monitoring, they're basically your customer accounts, right? And those customers, do you see most of those customers' data coming from the cloud, or is it on-prem mostly?
So the customer accounts don't come up as much because they just have access to their own data. So it's more the employee accounts, that we're looking at, or the service accounts, accounts that have access to everybody's,
admin accounts, basically.
Yes, administrative. Yeah, because the customer, they're limited to just seeing whatever their own thing, and that makes sense, right? They should be able to see their own health information. And we do have that, but we do try to, as much as possible, keep everything on-prem. We're not saying we don't use cloud services, but we try to, where possible, set it up to where the data is kept on-prem.
To just root this in very practical terms again, can you give an example of a sensitive report that came in that was either a false alert or an actual issue? Like what was its journey, how it reached you, and which corrective actions you took on this report?
One that was not caught by me, but by our tool. Because part of what we do is the tool that we use includes a service, includes initial monitoring. And so then it got caught, and after it got caught, it actually kept it from doing anything. So then my job, though, was to analyze, deal with the team to analyze, what happened, what was it capable of doing. So we did figure that out. And then we created a incident report.
Was it vulnerability exploitation?
It was basically embedded in a software tool. So the tool had been downloaded, and then it started to do activity on its own.
Okay.
And so the tools that we have caught it. And
so
let's stop it.
This software that was downloaded, was that software that was on your roster list of approved software, or was that software that had been downloaded by a user and that was not authorized?
That's part of what one of the things that came of it was that to set it up going forward to where anyone needing that particular tool, they would get it from an authorized location that we set up.
Okay. So
it was something that had gotten downloaded from the internet, and then
and it's the provider of the software which had been compromised. It's not so much the software itself, but the provider of the software.
Yes, the place where it was downloaded apparently had been infiltrated, and so therefore,
got it.
It had been corrupted. The tool, the tool wasn't created to be that way, but it had been tampered with. And so then, again, the tools we used did their job, right? I mean, in the one that we use is Sentinel-1. And so Sentinel-1 comes with a service called Vigilance. And so Vigilance was who caught it.
So what gave it away? What was the suspicious activity that raised the red flag?
They noticed, I think it was trying to do some sort of elevated access or trying to create an account. So it was doing suspicious activity, right? That then raised the flag. And so then they shut it down. And then we were able to analyze it after, and do our post review. And from there, we did lessons learned, and that's part of the idea, right? Whenever you find something in somehow, some way, manage to get through, then you have to find out, well, what should we do better? It's always a job of trying to do better.
So are you seeing major changes in this field for the past few years or so?
So one of the things we're working on is a certification known as HITRUST. And
HITRUST is an acronym.
It's actually, I don't know that if it's an acronym or not. It's gone through iterations. It's now considered a trademarked name, but
Okay.
it's relevant to it. The high part of it is because it initially started out as a HIPAA, a way
Another
to
acronym?
yes, to do with the healthcare information portability act, I believe it is, where the HIPAA originally came up because people would move from one doctor to another, and the idea was like, hey, you can move your data with you. But then as they looked into that further, as the legislators, they decided, you should also have your privacy protected for that data. And then that's where the regulations related to privacy came out, and security. And so then
So HIPAA, sorry to cut you off, HIPAA is a compliance policy, and then a HITRUST, HITRUST, it's more of a security framework to implement this compliance policy, right?
yes, HITRUST was created to address the fact that HIPAA did not have any kind of audit anything set up to review it, right? So then a lot of consultants, my understanding, it was created in Dallas by a bunch of consulting firms, and they decided we'll create a framework, a control framework to adhere to that regulation, which also includes a way to have it assessed, like a way to have it tested independently, and that way it's not just somebody attesting, not just somebody saying, oh yeah, we got that covered. No, it gets tested, right? And the thing with HITRUST is that it originally started, like I said, with HIPAA, but it's now become agnostic. So it's now it can help other industries.
So HIPAA is healthcare specific, but HITRUST
Yes,
isn't anymore, even though it originated in the healthcare industry.
exactly. Yes, it has expanded, and but the one thing that originally caught my eye with HITRUST back in a prior
Which
employment
decade?
position, huh?
Which time period? Which decade?
What time period? Geez, I guess it would be around 2010.
Okay.
It's about 15 years ago. What first caught my eye was that they went out of their way to update based on other relevant controls that were out. So
wait.
let's
You need to explain what is a control.
so there's the fun thing with the compliance world and the risk world is there's a whole huge number of frameworks, right?
Okay.
The audit, ISACA, which is like an audit specific group.
Okay, I don't know this acronym. Okay, so ISACA, ISACA?
CA, yes. They had what they referred to as COVID, so they had their framework. Then there's all sorts of different, like depending on the area that you're looking at, right? There's a Graham-Liley Act, which is for finance. There's a PCI, which is payment card industry,
Yep.
has their own standards. So these things get updated like every year, every so many months. Whenever they find that there's something new, they're of concern. And back when I particularly got noticed HITRUST was I was working for the state of Texas at a university, and so we were under the Texas Administrative Code. That was the security that we had to adhere to. And so part of my job there was to update all. Well, actually, what I created was a tool, basically a spreadsheet where I had how all these other different frameworks and regulations, how I was covering them by doing the Texas Administrative Code, right?
Okay, so this is where we're talking about. This is where we're talking about controls again. So
yes.
I'm guessing that every specification has a set of regulations that you need to cover. Each regulation is what you call a control, and then there's some overlap between those regulations.
Yes, because part of each control, as per the different groups, is there's a language associated with it, right? But what you find is sometimes, even though it's worded differently, it's the same thing, right? In all cases, you want to manage your administrative access, right? The privileged access. You have to make sure that gets that you're not just giving that to anybody, right? That's one of the, I guess, red flags for any company is when you can see that, hey, why does the janitor have privileged access? Something. So, believe it or not, I actually found that one time. We were auditing this one hotel chain, and it turned out that through the badge system, the janitor had access to information they shouldn't.
It's so much more convenient.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. It's like, why learning to limit. It's like people should only have the access they need to do their job, right? So that one philosophy will be worded in a lot of different ways by a lot of different control frameworks, right? And so what I like to do was I always felt, hey, as long as I'm doing this for one thing, for one purpose, I might as well cover off on the rest of these other things while I'm at it. And so I had a cross map, right, that I would have to update on a regular basis because this was always happening. But eventually I found that, hey, there's this group in Dallas that they update all the time. That's their full-time job, right? They have teams that do it.
And that's HITRUST?
And it ended up being HITRUST, yeah.
Got it.
And so I started to say, wait a minute, so why am I doing all this work? Me, myself, and I, right? I looked out and said, hey, there's a source that is doing this. And so even though they're very proprietary about their approach, I was able to get at least, some visibility into what they had available, and I used it, to then the year later, I did a risk assessment using, stuff that had come out during HITRUST. Like they called out, like these are the highest risks things, and so I go, okay, great, I'll look at that, right? So they began to be a resource for me, and later in my career, I was able to pivot and start working directly as someone that helps companies
as a consultant.
Yes, to achieve assessments, to and that's how I got into security. Actually, was because I like to say that I started out in audit. Let me go back to that. I started out in internal audit, and then eventually moved to security. And I like to say that I was a prosecuting attorney who's now a defense attorney. So I help you by knowing what the prosecuting attorney is going to look for, right? I know what auditors look for, so I help you with your documentation to make sure that, because a lot of times you're doing what you need to do, but do you have it evidenced in a way that the auditor is going to be comfortable with? Right?
Your career, you must have seen common mistakes that people make while trying to follow compliances.
I guess that brings up an interesting topic, because there's someone who I'm following now, thought leader, who he's very against some things in compliance, because he calls them like it's all checklists, right? As for the way he interprets it, And I understand that.
Like checklists, yeah.
It sounds like checklists, but the idea is to use the checklist to then try to be better. It's to improve your process, not just check off on the list, right? So yeah, maybe you're able to check off the list, but that's not the end goal. Your end goal is to mature to a level where you don't even worry about the checklist, because you're comfortable with what you're doing, and because you're doing it in a way that you took that into account, right? So yeah, this person, he's got a thing now called GRC engineering. I am curious to know more about it, because he's trying to set it up in a way that you can do a lot of it more automated, and I'm all for that, right? Anything we can automate is going to be better than waiting for me to, let's say, as a human, have to review a report that comes out. If I could set up a tool that would do that for me, then yeah, that would be, that's an exciting new thing, right? So that's something that you all were asking, like what's coming in the future. I would say that. But also, like, the one thing I always have noticed too. So I caught HITRUST just this kind of periphery type of situation, but the federal government adopted HITRUST, okay, and then they started to say, if you're an insurance that we're dealing with, you have to adhere to HITRUST. So I look at when I see, like, right now I'm seeing this, I think, capability maturity model that's out there, cyber capability maturity model, and the federal.
You need to explain that. What is a cybersecurity maturity model?
It's a maturity model, so it's saying,
I don't know what it is.
So maturity models, basically, in all cases, you're always going to be maturing. You're always going to be trying to get better, right? And so then, initially, you're lucky if you can get it to where, on a per project basis, I'm doing okay. You want to eventually get to the point where we're doing it okay all the time, right? It's repeatable, right? So I think you go like, I can do it. Then the next one is I can measure it. And eventually it's like I can repeat it, right? I can continuously do this. So there's a cybersecurity maturity model that's out now, and the federal government has adopted it. So I'm keeping my eye on that, because I go, look, this is
so what's the name of what's the name of that framework?
It's the CMM, I think. Yeah, it is some sort of cybersecurity maturity model, I believe is what it's called. And it's, things start out at the federal level, right? But then the federal people push it out. And so then the bigger companies have to adhere, right? So like in the case of HITRUST, all the Blue Cross Blue Shields have to adhere to HITRUST. So if you're going to be interacting with Blue Cross Blue Shield...
Wait. You need to explain what is Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay. That's one of the bigger insurance companies or groups in the United States. Okay, it's nationwide, So, unlike there could be smaller ones, but they are one of the. A lot of times, if you're in healthcare, you're gonna be interacting with them, and there's a high likelihood you'll interact with them. So then they start to push out, right? So the way it kind of works is federal government says they like something, or they're going to push this out. Bigger corporations start to have to adopt it. Then they start pushing it to the smaller, So sometimes these small to medium companies think, oh, hey, doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter to me. I'm not under that. But it's going to come down the pipeline to you. So that's one of the things where I want to try to help more people, understand. It's like, hey, be aware, because if you could start doing something now that can get you closer to that, maybe you're not comfortable and you don't think you're at that level, but still, anytime you can get yourself closer to that level, it's good, because that could get pushed down to you.
So, educate us. When there's a new framework like this cybersecurity maturity model that's coming up, what's your process to get familiar with it and then start applying it? Do you extract the key controls that you think apply to your organization? Do you just rule out those that you are already compliant with? Do you highlight the new things? How do you take ownership of this framework, and how do you start applying it and remain compliant?
Well, at first, I just start to pay attention to it, right? Go, oh, I'm seeing this. I need to keep an eye out for it.
We're talking about a document that is how many pages?
But once it becomes available, then I try to get a copy of the document, right?
So how big is it? Is it like 1 page? Is it like 100 pages? 1,000 pages?
Ooh, they tend to be up to the 100 pages.
Okay, that makes for some interesting reading at night.
They tend to be, and there's people, and that's why too. I guess I have job security people. There's a lot of people who don't like doing that, right? Reading through 100 pages of documents and trying to figure out what, like you just said. I mean, that you exactly spelled out my process. It's like, I'm going to look at it to see what do I already have covered, what's already included in everything that I'm already doing, right? Because in some cases it could turn out it's all the same, right? It's just renamed or reorganized in some cases. It's not necessarily something new, but if there is a nuance, then hey, what is that nuance, and what's the applicability of it? Because sometimes they'll say, like PCI likes to do this, where the credit card people, they'll go, you need to be up to a certain level of encryption, right? TLS 3.0, might be the one they're gonna, but they'll tell you when you have to have that done, right? It might not be till 2-3 years from now, right? So, but the idea is put it on your radar and start figuring out, like, hey, when can we make sure we have everything moved over to that? So we're
at this point, there's probably like half of our audience with their arms in the air shouting, just throw AI at this and it's going to solve it for you.
Oh,
but
okay.
Will it though?
Will it? It's a good tool. I mean, but I like the way somebody, I've gone to several AI things as well, because that's on my radar, right? You look at AI like it's a rookie. Okay, rookie auditors.
Yeah.
They're gonna look at something and conclude, and then, but you're somebody with experience has to look at it.
But
Somebody with
an AI
experience.
agent is really good at reading 100 pages of specs.
Yes, it can do that.
It can also miss. It can also miss a lot of information sometimes.
Yeah, I've
Right.
heard about that.
Yeah, you have to go back and look and see, hey, well, where did you get this from? And then when you read it yourself, you go, well, I don't come to that same conclusion as you. But that's because I've got 20 years of experience, right? So, I mean,
in your experience, do you see organizations underinvesting in security when it comes to compliances?
that's an interesting question. I do think, at the same time, you don't want to give them a blank. You don't want to do blank check, but yeah, I mean, I think there needs to be the right amount of money spent on security, because if you underspend, then you're kind of leaving yourself open. But at the same time, you don't want to. Here's what I find funny sometimes is that there'll be like this heavy duty security on something, and you're like, that's equivalent to a box of chocolates, and you've put all this security on your chocolate, and it's like you put the same security as Fort Knox, and it's just a box of chocolates, It's like, so that's the other thing too, is make it appropriate to what you're trying to protect. In our case, yes, we're protecting customer data, so you want to spend the right amount of money to cover that. But if you're covering something that's innocuous, right? It's like, oh, and I bring it up because sometimes I'll have to do multi-factor authentication on things that I'm like, it's not anything important that's in here.
So, what kind of information, customer information, is considered sensitive customer information? Like, we see email addresses and names, but those could be like, there can be like 10,000 Sadalies on the planet with different email addresses. So
There's just one like you, Sad.
Yeah. So what information about me is very sensitive?
Anything that can actually identify directly to you. Yeah.
So that means social security numbers, credit card information, national identification numbers, and all that information.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But isn't that already all available on the dark web?
I hope not. But the other thing you don't want to know anyone to know would be like any kind of health care concerns there might be that related to yourself, or myself, so, or even Regis. You don't want everyone knowing some of the things that would be of concern health wise. I mean, they do it in those spy movies, right? Where they know that this guy has a pacemaker, and somehow they hack the pacemaker. Right?
So as long as a user's information contains just an email address, a name, and maybe a birth date, it's okay. But but if it goes beyond that,
even the birthday would be of concern to me. But I mean, and as much as possible, what you want to do is where possible, you want the data to be in aggregate form, like to just be at a higher level form, to where it's not to the individual level, but to the world of our patients by a certain age, maybe, right? But it's the group of patients, not just any one individual. So you want to limit anything that could point to an individual.
So since you're also consulting with multiple other organizations, what in your experience, what parts of security do people overlook?
Well, as an auditor, the low-hanging fruit was always terminations, right? Or movement,
Oh, you mean termination of one's contract with the
of employees? No, or contracts too. Where it's like termination of access. Making sure, hey, you the people can't get in, right?
Yeah, the
After
vengeful employee coming back and
back and wiping everything away.
I would
wiping
never do
everything.
that. No.
Yeah. So, or the movement even, because let's say you got promoted or you got moved to another area, right? Now you say you mainly do software, right? But all of a sudden you're put into as software, you should be able to do programming and do things of that sort. But let's say you get moved to a position that now you're in marketing. You don't have any reason to be doing any programming. It's like, why do you still have all your programming access, right?
So is that what happened in your old hotel chain story with the janitor? Did he get demoted from CEO to janitor and kept his root access?
That one was even sadder because it was just anyone who had access to that badge system had like admin access, and that was like we called that out. We said no, yeah, and we were and at the time we were just kind of doing a readiness for PCI, for payment card, right? So a readiness assessment is where you're sometimes you get contracted to come in and help them get ready, right? Okay, we're going to get audited on this at some future date. Get us moving in the right direction. So yeah, that was like a readiness situation, and we caught that and had to tell them, oh yeah, you need to limit the admin access to just someone who's going to be an admin, not to the whole world, right?
So did you go to the bottom of that story? Like at what point did someone grant root access to that particular badge? Like I always like to ask the 5 whys, and it's often more than 5 times why. So do you conduct root cause analysis like this when there are big security incidents, like this in this example?
Well, in this case, it was just a matter of they didn't limit access for anybody, so it was just
Okay.
When they were granting access, it was always like, hey, admin access, boom, So, yeah, it wasn't like, oh, they went out of their way to give him. And by the way, if you go back like to some of the old hacking stories from back in the day, the janitor is somebody you got to worry about. Sometimes, in order to get physical access, sometimes people come in as janitors, and they take a job as a janitor, and that means they can go out they get the physical access to a lot of things because the janitor has to go in a data center to clean up, right?
How much of the security layer in an organization should a company own versus outsourcing it to someone else?
And the key thing, if you're going to outsource, is going to be to still have oversight. You still need to check whatever they do. You can't just fully outsource. Somebody inside has to be overseeing whatever they're doing. Because I just wouldn't, why would you trust your keys to somebody?
So let's say if we're like storing a lot of healthcare data and we don't want to own all the hardware and do all the hardware maintenance. We just want to, outsource all of that to Amazon because Amazon does it very well, or give that to Azure since they do it very well, or GCP or any other compliant cloud services. Even in that case, how much of the stack, the security stack, should an organization own itself versus, outsourcing?
There should still be somebody in the company that oversees the configuration, the monitoring, of whatever that data is, because you've outsourced the infrastructure, but that doesn't outsource your responsibility. That you have to you still have to make sure that that your client data, your patient data is kept safe. And so, maybe if you're going to outsource, let's say, that function, then that still has to be somebody that you trust, I would think. You'd have, if you're going to get like a consulting company to do that for you, or like a managed services, then you need to vet that service and make sure that they're going to protect what you need protecting in the right way.
To basically ensure that their service, the service that we're trying to use from that provider, it's also compliant with, for example, HIPAA or PCI, right?
Oh, yeah.
You need to explain to me something. This is hard work. And Saad, in your questions, I sense that you're asking, like, how much is it going to cost the company to support this cybersecurity effort? Because at the end of the day, cybersecurity doesn't bring anything to the bottom line of the company. It's not helping the company produce new features. It's not helping bring in new clients. It's absolutely vital. But it's not about the
And
revenue.
I would counter, though, because you say doesn't help bring in new clients. There are clients that are wanting you to be at a certain level of cybersecurity, and therefore you are bringing in those clients. It's like,
okay, good point.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that all the time, like, oh, but also think of it in terms of, I was thinking about this the other day, because they were like, we had a discussion about expense, it's just an expense, the security. And I'm like, it's a service. It's actually also a service. We're providing a service to the company. It's like, you would have to pay somebody, an external person, to do it if you don't have somebody internally, right? So it's still a service.
Still, bear with me. Organizations try to be as efficient as possible, because organizations are extremely greedy. They want to bring in as much revenue as possible. So how do we create more people like you, people who have read through hundreds of pages of specs? And we can't really expect everybody to go through these specs. So if we have a junior cybersecurity manager coming in, how do we make sure that they get trained to learn all that you know? Do they have to go through that same well, in your case, you enjoyed it, but I'm guessing for many people it's going to be painful. This painful process of reading through thick books of specifications. Is there an easier way to do that? I'm looking for shortcuts here.
I don't know about shortcuts. I mean, I know that, but I think that it is a concern, I think, and it's that's why I'm trying to do what I can to, like, I noticed here in San Antonio that there's a group that's called Cybersecurity, and they're helping to bring diversity to cyber, trying to bring people from different areas, including the military, like trying to help the military transition over. A lot of times they have the training, they just don't have the certification, or maybe they need more experience, like here in the corporate world, And so then that organization is one that I'm trying to bring here to San Antonio, because I think, we need to try to help these people, different people, like you said, train up, right? How do you, and you get it from talking to other people, right? In my case, I spent 10 years with the ISSA. I'm now an ISSA fellow. And
what's the ISSA? Yet another acronym?
Yeah, it's another acronym. It's the Information Systems and Security Association. It's an international organization.
So this is where you trained?
Yeah, I mean, I originally just started going to their meetings, and every time their meetings were always very informative and had a lot of the technical uh, information. And the thing is, if you expose yourself, it's like learning another language. You have to immerse yourself, and so if you can expose yourself and immerse yourself, then it starts to stick. Right at first you're just hearing it and you go, yeah, what are they talking about? I have no idea. Right? But as you continue in the journey, well, you find, hey, wait, that makes sense now. And also sometimes it's the person who presents, right? They find a way to present it to you and that makes sense to you, right? And so you say, okay, I get that, right? So the other group that I'm trying to get here is the Cloud Security Alliance, because I think when we talk about AI, you're talking about the cloud. I mean, there's also a heavy component of that is the cloud, and so then how can we not know about the cloud, right? So it's one of the certifications that I'm studying for, but I still have yet to take across the finish line. But I'm looking to get into cloud security, I think, because then, like Saad was saying, if we outsource it, you have it out on the cloud. Well, then how do I check the security there, right? How do I make sure that it's set up correctly?
I mean, it's mentioned. It's mostly mentioned in their docs, and I remember AWS has its own security guidelines for whenever you're trying to achieve compliances. Basically, that security guideline covers quite a lot of aspects of HIPAA and PCI DSS compliances. I mean, I've worked on projects where PCI compliance was required, and we read the AWS documentation. We were able to set up the networks, create boundaries between services, and ensure that no unauthorized person had access. Same was the case with HIPAA compliance, and I've even seen in the HIPAA compliance project, I've even seen that the development team uh, created a system of audit for accessing the for whatever the healthcare software they were producing. They had created an additional piece of software where they were logging each and every request, each and every login, each and every data request, and all that. So that was all custom made for one of our customers. And this compliance thing is really when you're dealing with compliances, that you always have to ensure that you are up to date. You read all the latest documents and ensure that you're up to speed, because if you are following older compliance instructions, those can, those can come back at you pretty easily. It's not.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to walk you through a fictional but very, very realistic, I think, scenario related to the use of AI. It's about an engineer or an employee using a generative AI, using a large language model, say ChatGPT or Claude. And while using this LLM, they leak confidential information about the company. How do you even detect this? And how do you detect this without also using yourself AI?
Yeah, you would have to use AI probably, and that's where that's a subject that keeps coming up. That like AI as a tool for security, because the nefarious actors are already using it, and they're going crazy with it. So to have the speed to block them, you kind of have to find ways to adopt AI. But you have to be careful because like you were just saying in that example, they could be leaking. So then I understand though there's ways for you to set it up, like at a local level, to set up a tool, an AI tool, to where the data does not go off-prem, right? The data is maintained on-prem, and therefore you could then, which on-prem is on-premises, so it's like to keep it from being able to leak out, because then
but that's why I refer to those large language models. They are extremely expensive to run on premises.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen some instances where they're not necessarily overpriced. I mean, you can find a way, and it goes back to the question: well, are we spending enough on security? Well, maybe that's a cost that needs to be done. Just to avoid the chances of something like that happening. Because I think that is a real example of something that could happen.
That is probably happening, yeah.
Yeah, it probably is happening, exactly. And I like to also focus on real. I've always been a fan of the CIS critical controls, 20 controls, because
wait, what is that? You're talking about the TV show?
CIS critical security controls. It's a set of controls it's like 20 different things, and it's based on actual, like, where people have been exploited, right? So it's a good one. Like, if you don't know what you want to follow, or you don't have one that immediately hits on you, look at that, the CIS,
the horror stories.
It's based on horror stories, right? But real horror stories, as opposed to there's these. I would always find it irritating when I was dealing with auditors, and they would come in and they would say, "Okay, Jaime just got terminated, but you never got rid of his access to the application. He's got no network access, right? His network access was terminated immediately, right? But he still has access to that application." And then I go, "Yeah, okay." And then they say, "So he comes in, and a friend lets him in." I'm going like, "Wait, a friend let him? Wait, how did that?" And then he got on the friend's computer, and I'm like, "What? Why is he?" So yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm like, this is laughable. You're creating all these what ifs that it has to be a bunch of what ifs to get to the point to where now they touch the application and they can do some kind of damage, right? So that's why I prefer the ones where it's like, no, talk to me about where something really has happened, right? And then I can feel, I know that I gotta make sure to cover that.
Wait, are you one of those people who watches movies and then comments, "No, this cannot happen. This is not realistic," as you watch the show?
Yeah.
You are okay.
Yes, I'll admit it. I had a hard time watching. There was a Christmas movie where rom-com where it's like, they couldn't sleep at night, and then only when they were with this other person were they able to sleep at night. And I just kept going, no, that doesn't make any sense. When I finally suspended my disbelief, it was an okay movie after, but it was just, yeah, I had to get past that hurdle.
Okay, I'm glad we didn't watch a movie together. Okay,
Yeah.
I need to ask you my last question.
Okay.
And you seem to be a very technical, hands-on person. I'm pretty sure you are. So I'm looking forward to your answer. It's the magic wand question. And you're facing difficult issues in your job. Let's say you had a magic wand to get rid of one problem, the biggest, majorest problem that you face, and it would you just get rid of it entirely. This could be anything. What would it be?
I don't know, one problem that just I could
Maybe you just
erase.
enjoy problems and you want to keep them.
Yeah, I guess I kind of do enjoy solving problems. So, but yeah, I mean,
Maybe you have more problems then.
well, I'm one of the things that I'm trying to deal with is part of what my job is to do third-party management. Okay, to have to review third parties, do due diligence on them. It would really be
third
nice.
parties like organizations or software or people?
Yes, like all of the above, right? Like
Okay.
if there's something a tool or some new application that we're trying to get in, then going through the process of trying to um, make sure that they, like he was talking about, where AWS, you can find out that they've got uh, testing, they've got Sarbanes, you want to make sure that they've been vetted, right? That they're tested. And we used it. We got a service, and they just wouldn't. The idea was like, hey, you're supposed to take this off my hands, and instead, it would always be like, well, we can't get a hold of somebody there to answer the questions. And I was like, well, that's part of why we got you, right? So you could figure that out. And instead, I had to spend time working on that, right? Trying to figure out. And then in some cases, maybe the company had a website you could go to and you could download everything. So it's like, that should have been you guys. You guys should have gone out and done that. So yeah, so we're going to try somebody new now that hopefully will work out better. But yeah, it's irritating having to try to, and it's also irritating like where the companies won't respond to you sometimes. They just don't want to, and they'll use the excuse, oh, it's our we don't want to give away any of our information and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but I want to do business with you, and I need to be comfortable knowing that you protect your information to the level that we need it to be protected.
Dependability, yeah, I can use that. Definitely use that. We need to bring this to a close.
Okay.
Thank you so much again. This was I really enjoyed it. I learned an awful lot. It's scary how much I learned. Thank you again, Saad. Hope to see you again very soon on the show again. Take care.
Yeah, give more props to Saad because he's got a hard job.